A bloody hand hangs limp, the sacrifice complete and dripping onto the floor. Dark energy swirls around a hooded cultist, the grim ritual clearly underway. Before them, a woman is offered on a stone altar to summon their god. Her soul is ripped from her body in a vortex of pure, agonizing power. And a new god is born from this pain, musing on cosmic humility. This being reaches for the cosmos, feeling utterly dwarfed by its infinite scale. A bleak reminder that even gods are just specks in the grand scheme. Meet Eidos, a pagan god who looks like he desperately needs a nap. He asks his little skullbird companion, Io, for a review of today's soul meal. Io, who is also a pagan god apparently, just chirps back, keeping its review concise. Eidos admits the soul was kind of bland, a real gourmet of human suffering. This culinary critique leads him to a moment of deep existential thought, wondering if there is anything else on the menu besides tormented human souls. But Io reminds him they have been devouring souls for millennia, it is just their nature. Eidos reflects that they do not get to pick their followers, a real divine HR problem, and their followers' love involves a whole lot of human sacrifice, which is a choice. He explains they were literally born from human emotions and prayers to the stars, concluding they should probably just be grateful for existing at all, you know. Just then, a brilliant light streaks across the night sky, catching his eye, and it is not just a star, it is an arrival, something new crashing into their world. Eidos and his little skullbird buddy are both completely caught off guard by this new arrival. And of course, it is a new challenger with a smug grin, already mocking his followers' hobbies. Turns out she is Nemesis, the Greek god of Nemesis, and she is here to see Eidos. Eidos recognizes her immediately, his whole vibe shifting from bored god to oh crap, it is her. Even little Io gets in on the action, telling her she is trespassing on their turf. Nemesis just plays it cool, sarcastically admitting, "Oh yeah, this is totally your land." But Eidos fires back that her asterisk cultists have been poaching on his divine property. She gives him a look that says, "Do not play dumb," knowing he gets what she is really here for. And the issue is clear, his cult has been snatching up her followers for sacrifices. She straight up accuses him of eating the souls of her people, a serious divine faux pas. We get a grim reminder of what his followers do, with a victim screaming in terror. Eidos gets defensive, saying the heavens would be better off without a freak like her anyway. And then he pulls the classic, "I do not control my worshippers" card, a real hands-off management style. She finds this absolutely hilarious, like he just told the funniest joke in millennia. Then she cuts deep, calling him a god who is basically a slave to the very mortals who feed him. Standing across the field, she just lays it out for him, "You are pathetic." And with that, she stops talking and starts powering up, green energy crackling around her. She strikes fast, and as blood flies, she declares this is straight-up vengeance. Our boy Eidos is completely stunned, caught off guard by the sheer speed and power of her hit. And in the chaos, poor little Io gets caught in the crossfire, plummeting from the sky. Nemesis launches into a lecture about how gods are supposed to be a benefit to the world, listing off all the good gods who bring stuff like dreams and freedom, really rubbing it in. And even mentioning the ones who forged the universe, talk about a high bar to clear. Then she hits Eidos with the big question while he is down, what exactly is your purpose? Our boy is just completely floored, her words cutting way deeper than any blade could, because all he does, she says, is kill and destroy everything he touches, bringing nothing but fear to the world while he clutches his little bird companion. She just lays it on him, asking why a god like him should even exist at all. Snapping back to the present, he reaches for Io's falling skull, his hand still bleeding, and with a pained look, he bitterly admits that it must be nice to have statues and temples built in your name, a luxury he has never had. He imagines getting offerings of fruit and wine instead of the usual screaming victims, a real upgrade. This guy starts questioning his own existence, wondering why a foul god like him is even around. In a moment of pure existential dread, he admits he does not even know the answer himself. But his therapy session is cut brutally short by Nemesis resuming her attack from the sky. She unleashes a barrage of energy blasts that just tear the entire forest apart, and Eidos gets absolutely ragdolled by the explosions, tumbling through the chaos. Hovering above the destruction, Nemesis just screams at him to fight back, calling him a coward. She then dives in for another devastating strike, her weapon glowing with pure power, smashing him down while asking if destruction is all he is really good for. Her blade glows with that familiar green energy, ready for another round of divine discipline. She lands a vicious kick right into Eidos, finally getting the reaction she wanted. Spitting blood, he gives her the exact look of rage she was hoping to see. Nemesis just smirks, wondering if this lesser god can even put up a real fight. But Eidos' eyes glow with a new resolve, deciding none of her taunts matter anymore. He accepts that his followers are trash and his existence is basically pointless, a real low point. Standing over poor Io's body, he fully embraces his grim role as a god of doom. With his power now fully unlocked, our boy is finally ready to get serious. And just like that, he snags her leg mid-kick, completely catching her off guard. She leaps back, suddenly finding this little fight a whole lot more interesting. Turns out she did her research and found no one in any pantheon has seen his power. Eidos, now in his final boss form, asks if she wants to be the first to witness it. She just eggs him on, telling him to show her his best moves before she ends him. His grip tightens on his staff as he channels all that dark, chaotic energy. And suddenly, massive shadow spikes erupt from the ground right under her feet. Nemesis is actually caught off guard, forced to dodge the violent assault from below. From above, Eidos dives straight down, bringing the fight directly to her. Their attacks meet in a massive explosion of purple and green divine power. This entire forest lights up as their powers collide in one spectacular blast, but Nemesis just grins through it all, asking if shadow manipulation is his only trick. Eidos calls her pathetic, his own purple aura flaring up with a new, dangerous rage. Nemesis just smirks, her blade glowing as she explains her power is pure unadulterated vengeance. And her whole deal is the more she despises someone, the harder her blows land, a pretty solid business model. She stands there bathed in green light, basically asking if he wants to get wrecked. Our boy is just completely stunned, unable to process the sheer power spike. Before he can even blink, she clocks him with a right hook that sends him reeling back. She immediately follows up, diving down to continue the beatdown without a single pause. Eidos gets launched across the sky like a divine cannonball, breaking the sound barrier. His flight path ends abruptly against a distant mountain, which probably is not great for the mountain. Then he comes crashing back down to earth, carving a massive trench in the ground. Lying in the dirt, he admits that, yeah, getting hit by a god really hurts. Who knew? For a second, he just wants to stay down and call it a day, which is honestly relatable. He is just a small figure on a hill, contemplating giving up entirely. But seeing Nemesis waiting for him, he realizes he is not quite ready to check out yet. At that moment, his hooded cultists start creeping out of the woods, spotting their god. One of the Antler Boys points him out, confirming that is their lord getting his butt kicked. Eidos looks over at them and takes a deep breath, inhaling something from them. His entire demeanor changes, going from defeated to dangerously focused in an instant. Nemesis figures it out immediately. He is literally feeding on his followers' fear. Now powered up, Eidos gets to his feet and asks if she is the goddess of revenge, ready for round 2. Eidos, now radiating pure power, tells her she should have known better. His voice dripping with rage, he says she crossed a line when she hurt his friend. For the first time, Nemesis looks genuinely surprised, questioning what this form even is. Shadowy tendrils then erupt from the ground, literally spelling out doom around her. With a single slash of her blade, she cuts through his shadows like they are nothing. She mockingly asks if he thinks these pathetic little shadow puppets can stop her. Our boy calmly replies that no, he does not think they will. His power, he explains, is not just shadow manipulation, it is something much more. This big reveal drops, his true power is creation itself. He clarifies that he manifests darkness and negative emotions from the cosmos, and then makes them a reality, completely binding Nemesis in shadowy tendrils. This god of doom points out she made a critical error attacking him in his own domain, a place where fear is practically an unlimited resource thanks to his fan club. Now he gathers all that delicious fear into a concentrated orb in his hand. This goddess of vengeance struggles, but she is completely caught in his trap. In a perfect bit of irony, he declares this is his revenge for what she did to Io. He then offers her a taste of his own brand of payback, unleashing a massive beam of pure, concentrated fear energy right at her. This attack completely engulfs Nemesis in a blinding yellow explosion, leaving her to take the full, devastating force of his newfound power. This blast of pure fear energy absolutely detonates, engulfing Nemesis in a blinding light. This explosion is so massive it literally vaporizes a huge chunk of the forest. Inside the light, Nemesis just calmly thinks, so this is what it feels like. Standing over the devastation, Eidos gets his revenge, but it feels surprisingly hollow. Nemesis, looking like a burnt husk, claims she does not feel any different. What a troll. Eidos, however, seems to be getting an idea, his eyes glowing with a new grim purpose. He looks over his own followers and decides there is still more purging to be done. His hand is still dripping blood from the fight, a reminder of the damage he took. But then his divine power kicks in, healing the wound with that signature purple energy. With a look of utter exhaustion, our boy admits something to himself. Even after purging his own cult, he still does not feel any better about his existence. And just like that, we jump forward 5 entire months. This scene shifts from the grim forest to the vast, peaceful cosmos, where Eidos is just chilling in a field, taking a well-deserved existential nap. He is just lying there, looking completely drained after his big god-on-god brawl. His eyes barely open as he glances up, sensing someone approaching him. A new challenger appears, and Eidos asks if he is the one who finished off Nemesis. Turns out it is the Olympian god Hermes, who is clearly not impressed by the god of doom. Eidos, not even bothering to get up, just asks if he is here to kill him. Hermes just smirks, telling him he is here for something much, much worse. Hermes looks down at our boy, roasting him for killing his own fan club and looking like garbage. He points out that without any worshippers, Eidos is basically on a divine timer to fade away. But surprise, his boss has other, much more humiliating plans for him instead. Eidos just wearily asks if it is a public execution, getting straight to the depressing point. With a grin, Hermes reveals it is actually just a little game, which is never a good sign. Our boy is understandably confused by this sudden shift to divine game night. His rules are simple: prove he deserves to live as a god or die like a mortal. This whole thing is apparently his punishment for offing Nemesis and having 0 followers left. Eidos' eyes glow with that familiar purple rage, clearly done with taking orders from God. So he just launches himself at Hermes with a full-on doom blast, skipping the pleasantries. Hermes, completely unbothered, just smirks, saying he was hoping for a fight. His hand starts crackling with some serious golden lightning, ready to rumble. And he gleefully announces he gets to deliver the punishment personally. In a flash, he grabs Eidos right by the face, stopping him cold. Moving at literal god speed, Hermes becomes a blur of pure destructive energy and just smashes our boy's head straight into the ground with 0 hesitation. This impact sends a massive shockwave tearing through the landscape, kicking up a huge cloud of dirt and debris from the sheer force of the blow. When the dust settles, a massive trench is carved through the forest. Talk about redecorating. Lying there defeated, Itos mutters that Hermes is lucky he is not allowed to kill him. Hermes taunts him from the bottom of the trench, casually mentioning Zeus wants his head. But God apparently insisted on using Itos for some kind of experiment as one of his antler boys rises up. Our boy's eye flares with that signature purple rage, clearly not in the mood for divine errands. He teleports right behind Hermes for a sneak attack, actually catching the speedster off guard for a second. Suddenly, a new player enters the field, a guy in a top hat who stops his attack cold. Both Itos and Hermes are completely baffled, wondering who this dapper party crasher even is. This unknown divinity named Yora says he cannot have anyone killing a candidate for the first god game. With a creepy smile, he asks if everyone is ready to have some fun, which is a massive red flag. Itos is having none of it, asking if they seriously think he is just going to play along. He goes on a whole rant about how his entire existence has been nothing but torment, flashing back to all the other pantheons who have apparently been bullying him for centuries. Lying on the ground, he laments that he has always been completely alone, cue the tiny violin. Yora just explains that God wants him to play, and Itos asks why he should suddenly listen now. Our boy demands to know what any of the other divinities have ever actually done for him, and Yora just calmly hits him with, "That is the point, Itos." This truth bomb drops that if he died tomorrow, none of the other gods would even care. Even the human world would not notice he is gone since he has no believers left. Yora delivers the final, soul-crushing verdict: our boy is completely expendable. But that is exactly why he is the perfect candidate for this little game, holding up a glowing orb. Itos is horrified to learn it is a death game designed purely for the Pantheon's entertainment. Yora explains the game's purpose is purging useless gods for a new universe. Talk about a divine layoff. Itos' eye flares with that signature purple, clearly unimpressed with this new corporate mandate. Standing there with Hermes, this top-hatted weirdo just holds up the orb that started this whole mess. Our boy goes on a rant, asking who the hell they think they are to decide if he lives or dies. With a snarl, he declares that the only one who gets to make that call is him, erupting in a massive column of pure, defiant doom energy. Yora just smirks, saying God totally predicted he'd throw a little tantrum. So this dapper game master just points his little glowing orb right at our boy, ready to shut him down. He unleashes a blast of white energy that looks suspiciously like a magical leash. Itos gets hit full force, completely caught off guard by the sudden attack. This energy detonates and Yora calmly tells him to just rest, which is not ominous at all. Suddenly docile, Itos closes his eyes and agrees to play their little game. His head lolls back, completely under the influence of whatever that orb just did to him. But then a familiar little skull-faced bird creature appears out of nowhere, looking confused. Itos' eyes snap open in total disbelief, recognizing his supposedly dead friend Io. In this weird mind space, he is just a tiny speck, convinced this has to be a dream. His shock is so real he can barely process it, whispering Io's name again. Overcome with emotion, he is holding his little buddy, asking if he is really alive. Io, in a stunning display of eloquence, just responds with a single, profound caw. Itos is actually crying with relief, his whole world flipping upside down for the 100th time today. In this weird white void, Itos tells Io he was starting to think he'd be alone for this. But of course, the quiet cannot last as someone else's foot steps into the frame. Turns out it is just him, now on his feet and wondering if this empty dimension ever ends. He quickly puts it together that Yora, the top-hatted weirdo, knocked him out and sent him here. And the horrible realization dawns that this must be the start of that divine death game. To make matters worse, he tries to summon his doom magic and gets basically nothing. Our boy just stares at his nerfed hand, looking thoroughly unimpressed with this development. Still, he scans the area, trying to figure out what the catch is in this big, empty room. Suddenly, a random piece of paper comes flying straight toward his face. It just keeps floating on by like a piece of divine junk mail. Itos snatches the mysterious parchment right out of the air. It is his official game profile, roasting him for killing his cult and having an existential crisis. He is predictably not amused by this extremely personal call-out from the game masters. With a scowl, he just crumples the paper up in a fit of rage. He then tosses it aside, scoffing as if they have any idea who he really is. Just then, a single wooden door materializes out of thin air in the middle of nowhere. Both he and Io just stare at it because what else is there to do? Our boy is already completely over this, muttering about how annoying this is getting. This door itself is super generic, except for a blank metal plate where a name should be. So there he stands in an infinite white room with only one exit. The game has officially begun. Itos walks up to the single wooden door, the only feature in this entire void. His divine intuition is screaming that this is a very, very bad idea, you think. With no other options, he just grabs the doorknob to get this over with. This door bursts open, revealing a stone path that shoots out into the vast cosmos. Looking out at the star-filled expanse, he delivers a deeply unenthusiastic, "Great." He even quips that a simple public execution would have been a lot less dramatic. Our boy just scowls, calling this whole elaborate affair an absolute nuisance. Behind him, the door just hangs there in the white emptiness, a one-way ticket, and then it slams shut, sealing him inside this new cosmic arena for good. Suddenly, another foot steps onto the stone path, looks like he's got company. Itos continues down the walkway, already looking thoroughly unimpressed with his new reality. It turns out 3 other people have just appeared on intersecting paths around him. This whole stage is a giant cross floating in space, which is not ominous at all. One of the new guys, a human contestant named Natalio, immediately demands to know who they are. Another contestant, the Slavic god Chernobog, just smirks that having humans here is the real punishment. And the third guy is just wearing a paper bag on his head, offering zero input. Ito sizes up his competition and calls them a bunch of freaks, takes one to know one, pal. Just then, a new voice greets the contestants as a very dapper Shu enters the frame. Of course it is Yora, the top-hatted game master, tipping his hat to his new lab rats. Floating down in a heavenly spotlight, he officially welcomes them to the first-ever God game. Yora explains the mortals are here for a shot at divine glory, a pretty sweet deal. This divine contestants, however, are just playing to avoid being completely erased from existence. Floating above, he tells them all to play by the rules, as Chernobog calls him a hunk of metal. Itos is disgusted, realizing God just wants to watch deities fight humans for entertainment. This human, Natalio, immediately starts mouthing off to Chernobog, clearly having a death wish. Our game master just finds the whole insult thing amusing, asking why they are so offended. He challenges them to prove their superiority over mortals if they truly believe it. This only way to do that, of course, is to win this whole twisted game. But Itos points out the obvious. The other pantheons have already decided they are expendable. Yora just coldly confirms it, saying they are no longer considered necessary in this universe. Chernobog tells them to shut up and prove they are worth keeping around. Natalio, meanwhile, is completely lost and just calls them all idiots. He even turns to the guy with a bag on his head for answers. Good luck with that. Cutting through the chatter, Yora raises a finger to command their attention. It is finally time for him to lay out the rules of this divine circus. Chernobog listens, his mind racing over the implications of the God game. He starts to question the very premise of this whole setup, wondering why on earth mortals would be included in a test for gods. Yora then announces the first event is gladiator jousting, which sounds incredibly stupid, and Itos asks if it is any different from regular jousting, a very fair question. Natalio immediately starts trash-talking Chernobog, calling him hornhead, which goes over great obviously. Yora cuts in, telling them to save the playground insults since the game has not officially started yet. He explains the rules are simple, just knock your opponent off the floating platform to win. Itos listens, picking up on the key detail that they can use whatever means necessary. He correctly translates this to, so he just wants us to murder each other, which is very astute. But he also notes that whoever gets pushed off is finished, no matter how it happens. Natalio, ever the tactician, asks the obvious question of who their opponents actually are. Yora clarifies that only 2 of the 4 of them will be advancing to the next round. And with a smug little gesture, he says he will leave the definition of opponent up to them. A giant purple timer appears in the sky, giving them exactly 10 minutes to complete the round. This implication is clear: if they do not produce 2 winners in time, they all die. But before they can start, Yora claps his hands, remembering one last little detail. He summons some starting weapons, and the guy with the bag gets a wooden paddle. Natalio, on the other hand, gets a massive glowing golden chainsaw. The balance is impeccable. Yora watches from above as Natalio celebrates his new toy, already convinced he's going to win. Baghead just stares at his new weapon, which looks like something you'd get in a gag gift shop. Natalio immediately starts mocking him, pointing out how completely useless that paddle is. He then tries to form an alliance, telling the others to team up with him if they want to live. His brilliant opening strategy is to butcher the paper bag freak first, since he is an easy target. Itos watches this all unfold, noting that this human has adapted to the death game mindset way too fast. Itos observes that the guy with the bag is the only one acting realistically, which is to say he is terrified. Of course, that realistic attitude also makes him the least likely to actually survive this whole ordeal. Ignoring the others, Chernobog strolls over to Itos, claiming they have met before. Itos confirms it with a deadpan look, remembering it was a few centuries ago. Turns out Chernobog and his buddies once pranked him into holding up the sky for 3 months, classic, and Itos got his payback by accidentally spilling wine all over him at Thor's wedding. Chernobog just grins, brushing it all off as good memories from the past. He then proposes an alliance. Since they are both gods, they should just team up and crush the humans. His pitch is simple: they survive this breakout and make the game masters pay for this humiliation. But Natalio immediately cuts in, telling Itos to ignore the Satan-looking bastard and join him instead. Chernobog is deeply offended, but Natalio just shrugs that all horned gods look alike to him. Itos just listens to this pathetic bickering, looking completely unimpressed with his options. Looking up, he sees the timer is already counting down, adding a nice bit of pressure to the situation. With the clock ticking, he is clearly trying to figure out the best move here. So he turns to his trusty sidekick Io, asking for any brilliant recommendations. Io's little skull eyes just glow, clearly having a genius plan in mind. And that plan, of course, is delivered via a series of very insightful caws. Itos just smirks, saying he was thinking the exact same thing, which is not reassuring. Natalio is completely baffled by this, asking if they are seriously having a conversation right now. Even Chernobog is just staring, wondering what the hell is going on with our boy and his bird. Ignoring the bickering, Itos stomps his foot right in front of the terrified Baghead. He then tells the guy to get up, completely shocking the other 2 contestants. Baghead just looks up, paddle in hand, totally confused by this sudden attention. This poor guy can barely stammer out a me. He is the obvious weak link here. Chernobog absolutely loses it, screaming at Itos for picking the weakest human over him. But Itos just turns his back, coldly stating that for him, it was an easy choice. His lecture then turns to Natalio, calling him a chainsaw boy who is way too eager to kill. Next on the roast list is Chernobog, who he calls an arrogant jerk for thinking gods are superior. Itos declares that if this game is about worthiness, neither of those 2 deserves to live. With that settled, he finally turns back to address Mr. Paperbag directly. A quick flashback shows Itos telling someone he knows what it is like to have everything taken from you by people who think they are better. He remembers the feeling of being looked down on and totally underestimated. This memory shows him facing down a whole crowd of powerful entities who wrote him off. Back in the present, he asks his new potential ally if he understands that frustration. Eidos then offers his hand, proposing they team up and make the others pay. With a surge of power, he commands the kid to fight because he is not ready to die yet. Baghead grabs his hand, sealing the deal on this completely unexpected alliance. Now standing together, Eidos praises his choice, leaving the other two absolutely stunned. He puts a reassuring hand on his new partner, saying he knows exactly what it is like to be the underdog. Eidos tells his new partner he can sense there is more to him than meets the eye or the bag. Meanwhile, Baghead is just wobbling in place, barely able to hold his paddle straight. At least, Eidos notes this guy is way less annoying than the other two loudmouths. Chernobog watches this alliance form, absolutely seething that a god would side with a human. His face twists in fury as he just spits out the word disgusting. He even claims this is why God wanted Eidos erased while the clock keeps ticking down. Not to be outdone, Natalio offers Chernobog the lucky chance to fight beside him. His sarcasm is dripping as he asks if he should kiss the princess's feet in thanks. Chernobog just tells him to shut up and stay out of his way, setting the stage for their own fight. Turning back to his ally, Eidos asks the obvious question, "Are you afraid?" and gets a shaky yes. Through the bag, we see his terrified eyes as he admits he does not think he can do this. This poor guy confesses he has never even hurt anyone before. Great start for a death game. Eidos muses that for a normal person, this level of terror is completely expected. But with his hand glowing, he reveals that is precisely what makes him the perfect partner. He is looking to weaponize those raw emotions, especially that potent fear. Purple energy swirls around his hand as Eidos declares he can use it. Chernobog immediately figures out the plan, scoffing that it would only work with a nation of human batteries. With just one guy, he tells Eidos that this is basically a suicide mission. Eidos just glares back, coldly confirming that he does in fact have a death wish. In a flashback, he declares there is no way he is dying just because some higher power ordered it. Natalio immediately kicks things off by firing a massive purple energy blast from his chainsaw. He screams down at Eidos that he sealed his own fate the moment he defied him. Eidos dodges the barrage, knowing his one arm makes him a huge target in close combat. Chernobog feels completely boxed in, realizing Natalio will just kill Baghead if he makes a move. With no other choice, Eidos squares up against Chernobog, his fist crackling with blue energy. These two gods then collide in a massive explosion of power, deciding to settle this head-on. Chernobog is genuinely amused, questioning why Eidos would ever challenge him in a brawl. He even mocks our boy for trying to fight with just one good arm, a truly classy move. But Eidos' eyes just glow as he coldly tells the horned god to step aside. Chernobog refuses, demanding Eidos let him go butcher that useless human first. For that little suggestion, he gets a supercharged fist right to the jaw, spitting blood. Baghead watches in pure terror, trying to warn Eidos to get away from the fight. Eidos just holds him back, telling him he needs him alive and to absolutely not interfere. From the sidelines, Natalio is in total awe as the platform trembles from their punches. As the divine beatdown rages, Baghead just stands there, clutching his paddle for dear life. But then a strange purple energy starts leaking out from under his paper bag. Eidos is just relentlessly hammering Chernobog, screaming that he has no worshippers or monuments. He continues the brutal lecture, yelling that he has no sacrifices, no history, no legends. Landing a final, devastating blow, he declares Chernobog's very existence is a stain on the world. With his opponent completely broken, Eidos looms over him with a smug grin, ready to twist the knife. Eidos' victory lap is cut short as he is suddenly getting his face rearranged by a mysterious newcomer. This powered-up version of Baghead now stands over the already beaten Chernobog, clearly the new boss. With a vicious grin, he tells Eidos to just lay there and watch what happens next. Then he promises to rip Eidos' partner to shreds, while the actual Baghead can only squeak in terror. This evil twin just watches, looking like he was born to cause problems. His glowing eyes narrow with terrifying focus. This is not a bluff. He looks down at the fallen god, admitting that Eidos' brutal roast was completely accurate. And Chernobog, completely broken, admits that his entire existence has been about causing suffering. In a flashback, he recalls that saving his little bird buddy Io was his one and only good act. And there is little Io in the memory, the source of Chernobog's one good deed. Meanwhile, the evil twin says that watching the strong pick on the weak really gets under his skin, because it reminds him of all the garbage the gods have put him through. So he grabs Chernobog, power surging, saying this whole situation makes him realize something. He figures maybe he can do one more good thing, charging up a fist full of purple justice. And that good thing is a universe-shattering punch straight to Chernobog's face. This resulting energy beam is so powerful it just blasts a hole right through the arena floor. Chernobog is completely swallowed by the attack, getting the full, unfiltered good deed experience. This attack is so over the top it completely shatters the fighting stage. After pouring everything into that one attack, the doppelganger collapses, admitting that was all he had. But somehow Chernobog tanked the whole thing and is now standing over the collapsed attacker, hoping he is done. Chernobog looks down at the collapsed doppelganger, completely unimpressed by his one-hit wonder routine. This evil twin is just sprawled out on the ground, purple energy smoking off him like a spent firework. He is clearly out of juice, grimacing in pain on the shattered floor after that one big move. All that is left of his grand entrance is a menacing grin and a whole lot of nothing. Chernobog just thinks shit, probably annoyed he did not get to land the final blow himself. But then the real Baghead starts screaming for him to watch out from behind. Our horned god is just confused, checking himself for injuries while totally missing the actual threat. Because Natalio is dropping from the sky like a human missile, chainsaw aimed right at him. With his fancy new antlers, Chernobog finally looks up as Natalio decides to take out the strong one first. Natalio brings his glowing chainsaw down, ready to end this whole game right here and now. This horned god just watches it descend, probably thinking, oh, not again. He is totally trapped, realizing there is no way he can get out of the way in time. This attack connects with a massive explosion of light and sparks, only for it to be blocked by, of all things, Baghead's flimsy wooden paddle. Chernobog is just staring, completely speechless at this absolutely ridiculous turn of events. He is trying to process how a piece of wood just stopped a divine chainsaw attack. Natalio is absolutely losing his mind, screaming at the paperbag bastard for interfering. And Baghead, paddle glowing, just asks Natalio what the hell he even is. This whole scene is just frozen, with Baghead effortlessly holding off Natalio while Chernobog watches, baffled. Natalio is internally panicking, realizing he cannot even budge the guy. This is not going according to plan. Baghead is just standing there, thinking that blocking the chainsaw felt like hitting a mountain. He nervously asks Chernobog if he could maybe use his magic energy to blast the guy again. Our boy then admits he really does not think he can beat him, so much for that confidence boost. But Chernobog explains that it is not that simple because his powers have some major limits. We get a quick lesson on divine mechanics. Gods normally run on prayers from their followers. Chernobog, however, is special and can convert negative energy into power instead. In this empty arena, he has neither, which makes using his divine arts a huge problem. He reveals that Baghead's sheer terror was just enough fuel for him to power up once. That, however, was the last of his prayer reserves, leaving him totally tapped out. Baghead immediately starts panicking that they are doomed, while Chernobog tries to play it cool. Their little strategy session is cut short by Natalio, who is not a fan of being ignored. He revs his chainsaw, absolutely furious that they dare turn their backs on him mid-fight. Mocking Baghead for getting cocky over one block, he lunges forward for another attack. He screams that weaklings like them need to be put in their place, and brings his chainsaw down again, only to be met with another impossible clang. Natalio's face is a perfect picture of someone whose entire worldview just shattered. Even Baghead is sweating bullets, realizing that first miracle block was not a fluke. As Natalio screams for him to just die already, our boy just stammers out an apology. Chernobog watches the whole thing, asking his little bird buddy Io if he is seeing this too. He notes that every single time Baghead swings that paddle, it is somehow deflecting everything. Chernobog notes that not only does the paddle block, it seems to make Baghead hit even harder. With a mighty swing, our boy just smacks Natalio's chainsaw so hard it sends him reeling back. Natalio's face is a perfect picture of disbelief, his brain completely short-circuiting. His supposedly divine weapon just clatters uselessly onto the ground, beaten by a plank. And now the loudmouth is on one knee, looking up at the guy he just called a weakling. He is so dazed he literally has to ask how he even got knocked down to the floor. In a move that defies all logic, Baghead actually reaches out and asks if his opponent is okay. He is genuinely offering to help the guy who was trying to murder him 30 seconds ago. Watching from the side, Chernobog figures out their weapons must have some special properties. But Baghead is still stuck in his own head, thinking a weapon is useless if you are unwilling to fight. Natalio's eyes start glowing, and it is pretty clear he does not appreciate the pity party. He gets back up, deciding it is time to teach this pacifist a very hard lesson. With a vicious slash, Natalio carves his chainsaw straight across Baghead's chest. Blood splatters across the bag as our boy just stands there, completely stunned by the hit. Natalio just laughs, calling him an idiot for dropping his guard to help an enemy. Clutching his wound, Baghead gets a brutal reminder that this is, in fact, a fight to the death. This villain then tells him to just get on his knees and die if he is not prepared to kill. Not even waiting for an answer, he charges forward again with his chainsaw revving. As they are about to clash, Baghead thinks he is not going to be the one to die today. His inner voice screams that even if it is hopeless, he absolutely refuses to die here. With a new fire in his eyes, Baghead absolutely slams his paddle right into Natalio's chainsaw. Natalio is just seething, demanding that if Baghead wants to live, he better fight back for real. Meanwhile, Ito's is still just a crumpled heap on the ground way below them, completely out of it. Chernobog gives a little speech about how you can either accept expectations or defy them. He then tells our boy he made his choice the moment he picked him as a partner. Still bleeding, Baghead asks what exactly Chernobog plans to do now that he is out of juice. He is clearly in a bad way, clutching that nasty chainsaw wound across his chest. But then Ito's suddenly reappears, looking a little different, and clocks him right in the face. This punch connects with a sickening crunch, sending a shockwave right through his paper bag. Before he can land another blow, Chernobog grabs his wrist, stopping the attack cold. This powered-up Ito's just smirks, saying Chernobog should have finished him off when he had the chance. He admits that last beatdown hit pretty hard as his body starts to crack and glow with energy. This blue power completely takes over, reshaping his entire form into something new. And now he is in full-on demon mode, promising to pay Chernobog back for everything. He even mocks him for being surprised, pointing out he blew all his prayer power at the start. This new, terrifying Ito's grins, saying he's got plenty more tricks up his sleeve. Chernobog is just completely stunned, not expecting this sudden power-up from his rival at all. With a burst of power, Ito's just tosses the horned god aside like he is nothing. And just when you thought things could not get worse, Natalio gets back up, ready for round 2. He promises Baghead that only one of them is walking away from this, a real confidence booster. Bleeding from that chainsaw gash, Baghead admits Ito's was right, everyone expects him to die. But gripping his bloody paddle, he decides that does not have to be his story, right? We flash back to a younger, pre-bag version of himself determined to defy everyone's expectations. His younger self knows that if he wants to survive this life, he absolutely has to change. This all stems from a memory of getting absolutely pummeled by bullies in an alleyway. This lead bully looks at his own bloody fist, calling the whole thing disgusting. He then tells the kid he cannot even stand to look at his hideous face anymore, and with a creepy smile he offers a solution to this problem. His whole crew of jerks just stands there, enjoying the show a little too much. That solution is just shoving a paper bag over the kid's head to hide him. They then threaten to kill him if he ever shows his face at school again. Real nice guys. This main tormentor just grins, daring him to try and take the bag off. Our poor kid just stands there, clutching the bag, completely broken by the experience. All the bullies can do is laugh, having successfully crushed his spirit entirely. This memory manifests as these demonic voices in his head, calling him a total loser. Back in the present, his eyes are filled with a terrifying resolve. He really will do absolutely anything to survive this, no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, Natalio is still charging in, completely unaware of the mental power-up happening. He swings his chainsaw with a massive swoosh, aiming to finish this once and for all, bringing the glowing weapon down for what he thinks is the final blow. But Baghead's already in motion, swinging that legendary plank right into the chainsaw's path. With blue energy flaring around him, he's got a whole new vibe, no more panicking victim here. That paddle connects with a massive thwack, completely shutting down Natalio's big finisher. Natalio gets sent stumbling back, absolutely stunned that he got blocked asterisk again by a piece of wood. His brain finally catches up, realizing this guy is not just tough, he is also surprisingly quick. He even starts thinking Baghead has martial arts training. This is definitely not his first rodeo. Our boy, however, seems completely distracted by something else entirely. He glances up to check on his partner, seeing the fight still raging way up in the sky, and it looks like Chernobog is absolutely wailing on the newly transformed Ito's nice. Baghead is just watching, desperately trying to figure out how he can even help from down here. That distraction gives Natalio the perfect opening, sneaking up behind him with glowing red eyes. He brings the chainsaw down for a cheap shot, only for it to get blocked by the paddle again. With the blades locked, Baghead says he knows exactly what kind of person Natalio is, flashing back to the bullies who love to belittle him just for the fun of it. These guys are just the worst, laughing and filming his humiliation on their phones. He remembers them as the type of people who get a kick out of making others feel small. Back in the present, he declares he has suffered from people like them his entire life, admitting that he never had the courage to actually fight back before now. But their partnership, symbolized by a helping hand, seems to have changed everything for him, and if he is going to die anyway, he might as well go down swinging for once, hell yeah. With his newfound resolve, Baghead swings his paddle with blinding speed. Natalio brings his own chainsaw around, expecting another easy clash. But our boy just smacks it aside with a massive boom, completely overpowering him. Natalio's brain just short-circuits, unable to process what just happened. His whole game plan was built on this guy being an easy mark. Now he is staring down a glowing, terrifying opponent who is definitely not a pushover. Baghead immediately follows up, bringing the paddle down in a brutal overhead smash. That hit sends Natalio flying backwards across the arena floor. He tumbles helplessly, completely losing his footing from the sheer force of the blow. In a desperate move, he tries to grab the edge as he goes flying off the platform. This camera pulls back to show him just barely clinging to the side of the massive structure. Dangling for his life, Natalio starts panicking, realizing just how screwed he is. A foot suddenly steps into view right next to his fingers. Our boy has arrived. Looming over him with that intense blue aura, Baghead is a picture of cold fury. Natalio immediately tries to talk his way out of it, asking why two humans should be fighting. He even suggests they team up against the gods, a real change of heart now that he is losing. Baghead just silently lifts his foot, aiming right for Natalio's desperate grip. With a brutal crack, he stomps down hard, crushing the guy's fingers under his boot. Natalio's eyes go wide in pure agony and disbelief at this sudden ruthlessness. Screaming in pain, he loses his grip and plummets into the darkness below. Natalio is screaming, begging not to be the one to die, a total 180 from his earlier trash talk. But Baghead just looks down, completely cold, and lets out a curse. Realizing there is no way out of this, Natalio seems to just accept his fate. In a flash of purple energy, our boy tells him he knows he is scared. His opponent's face is just a mask of pure terror, reflecting this strange new power. And then Baghead pats his head, admitting that he is scared too. What a twist. This sudden empathy completely throws Natalio for a loop, leaving him stunned. But with glowing red eyes, Baghead is just thinking about what his partner needs to win. With a sickening crunch, he grabs Natalio's head, starting the real process. This chainsaw user can only scream in rage as he realizes he has been played. His final moments are just a stream of curses at the guy who outsmarted him. Baghead then thanks him for being their second battery. Oh, that is cold. He crushes Natalio's head, absorbing all that delicious fear energy for himself. Watching from above, a guy in a top hat is impressed by this mortal's ruthless tactics. He even admits that he is starting to like our boy's style. But the real question is whether this power-up will be enough to change anything. Up in the sky, Ito's demon form faces off against a giant purple bird Chernobog. It looks like Chernobog is getting absolutely wrecked, plummeting downwards in his new form. His face is a mask of agony as Ito's power overwhelms him completely. And to make things worse, the clock shows only 1 minute and 45 seconds left. With a massive V-woom, Baghead unleashes all that absorbed fear energy straight into the sky. Falling Chernobog reaches out, ready to catch the power-up his partner just sent him. Demon Ito's just smirks, completely unbothered by this last-ditch effort. He has got this in the bag. Our mysterious top-hat observer is watching all this go down, looking very intrigued. That purple energy slams into him, and he thinks he got the boost just in time. He clenches his fist, absolutely crackling with the new energy he just received. His entire arm mutates into this wicked-looking claw, ready for some serious payback. And with his face half covered, he declares that now it is finally his turn to strike. Mid-plummet, he flips himself around, completely halting his descent with sheer power, then fires a massive beam of pure purple energy right back up at his opponent. Ito's smug grin vanishes instantly, replaced by a classic "huh" as the beam closes in. That beam connects with a massive wham, sending the demon god flying through the air, creating a spectacular purple explosion that lights up the entire arena. Down below, Baghead stumbles as the shockwave from that blast ripples through him. Meanwhile, Top Hat Guy is monologuing, noting gods are not allowed companions, which made Ito's bird suspicious. As Chernobog lands, the observer admits he first thought they were two separate gods. But seeing this new form, he realizes they are not two gods, but two halves of one, revealing a deity so tormented and lonely that he literally split himself into two beings, and it is only when these two halves are together that they can unleash their true power. Chernobog confirms it, telling Baghead that Natalio's fear provided the juice to fuse with his other half, Io. Chernobog points out they have only got about a minute and 12 seconds left on the clock, then asks Baghead if he can even keep up with their new, fused power level. Our boy is literally trembling, but he stammers out that he will try his best, sir, which Chernobog just accepts, turning his focus back to the demon god waiting for them. Ito's, meanwhile, is just grinning, calling them a bunch of freaks for their little fusion dance. He starts monologuing, calling Chernobog a god who only brings suffering to others. And then he turns on Baghead, calling him an insecure coward who is too afraid to show his face. He declares that the universe would honestly be a better place without them in it, and that they should just do everyone a favor and keel over and die already real subtle. But Chernobog is already on the move, planting his foot to launch himself forward, and the two of them start sliding down the massive bridge, with Baghead using his paddle as a sled. They pick up some serious speed, hurtling down the ramp towards the arena floor, while Ito's comes flying in from the other side to meet them head-on. Chernobog is thinking that honestly, if he were to die right here, he would not even be that upset about it, which is a totally normal pre-fight thought. But the thought of getting taken out by absolute scum like Ito's is another story. In fact, that idea just makes him want to fight even harder, hell yeah. Ito's smug face gets a little less smug as he sees that punch coming in hot. And just as he blocks it, Baghead comes flying in with a paddle slam to the face, leaving Ito's completely stunned, wondering how a mere human could have this much power. This entire platform starts to tilt from the sheer force of their combined attacks. Chernobog realizes the whole stage is tipping, forcing him to scramble for balance. Ito's, on the other hand, is just grinning like a maniac, absolutely loving the chaos. Without missing a beat, Chernobog lunges forward with a massive purple energy punch, and Baghead is right there with him, winding up the paddle for a brutal follow-up. That 1-2 combo connects hard, and Ito's is clearly not having a good time anymore. Our boy smashes the paddle down with everything he has got right into the demon god's face, which leaves Ito's completely baffled, wondering how a human is even hitting this hard. Then Chernobog follows up with a brutal right hook that sends a spray of red. Baghead glances at the clock, only 45 seconds left, wondering how this all went so sideways for Ito's. Meanwhile, the demon god is having a full-on meltdown since these two were supposed to be weaklings. With only 32 seconds left, his brain is just stuck on why is this happening. But our duo stands ready, a united front of purple and blue energy not giving him an inch. Ito's is actually sweating now, his confidence totally shattered as he asks why he cannot win. Another massive hit lands with a B-whoosh, sending shockwaves across the tilting arena. He is on his hands and knees, refusing to accept that he could possibly lose to these two. His mind races, thinking of his opponent's title, the almighty Chernobog, the Black God. And he is absolutely furious that a couple of nobodies are pushing him this hard. But Chernobog just starts laughing maniacally, his purple power flaring up even more. Ito's can only watch in horror as his opponent gets a second win. This is not good at all. With a wicked grin, Chernobog asks Ito's how it feels to be his new battery, a perfect callback. Ito's is just a mess on the floor, completely terrified and at his mercy. And he actually starts begging, his tough guy act totally gone now that he is losing. Then comes the apology tour, admitting he completely underestimated Chernobog. You think. He even tries the "we are both gods, we should be friends" routine, which is just pathetic. Ito's then appeals to Baghead, trying to scare him with what the other pantheons might do. But Chernobog's answer is a deadpan nothing, because nobody cares about them. He starts charging up a final, massive attack, swirling with purple and gold energy, while Ito's desperately asks why they are even in this death game to begin with. Chernobog's reply is just brutal: they are here because they are a waste to this world. Then he unleashes all that self-loathing in a massive energy beam right at Ito's. This demon god can only watch as the attack comes to erase him from existence, and the whole screen just whites out in a blinding flash of power. That hit connects with a huge crystalline impact, a final devastating blow. Chernobog gets blown back, admitting that attack was even stronger than he thought. He muses that it is gods who fear death the most, which explains the desperate struggle. But the clock hits 15 seconds and the survivors are Ito's and 4. Wait, what? Chernobog just stands there, his expression unreadable as he processes his own defeat. His face suddenly starts to crack and crumble apart like a statue. And he begins to disintegrate, shaking violently as his form fades away. As his body shatters, Chernobog's form dissolves into a cloud of purple particles, which then reforms into his little bird half Io with a sad little caw. With his last bit of strength, Chernobog praises his other half for a job well done, and he is back to his original form, calmly accepting defeat with Io on his shoulder. Suddenly, the sound of slow, deliberate clapping echoes through the arena. As the top hat guy floats down, calling this whole thing quite the surprise. He's got this smug, theatrical grin on his face, clearly enjoying the absolute chaos, even congratulating Chernobog for taking down a superior god without any believers. Down below, Baghead is just shaking, completely overwhelmed by this new development. But the host's attention shifts, his gaze landing on our boy with a thoughtful tilt. And he points right at him, calling him a particularly interesting specimen. This sudden spotlight makes Baghead jump, while Chernobog just looks done with everything. With the first round officially over, the host gathers the two survivors together, and a massive golden door materializes right behind them out of thin air. He tells them they are free to proceed to the next stage of this nightmare game. But Chernobog is immediately suspicious, demanding to know what is waiting for them. To which the host just smirks, asking why he'd ever spoil all the fun. He just gestures towards the door, telling them to go find out for themselves. Baghead tries to protest, but Chernobog seems to know it is completely useless, and our boy resigns himself to the fact that they do not really have a choice. Baghead finally gets it, they are not contestants, they are just prisoners. But our boy's not ready to die here, vowing to keep on fighting no matter what. And he turns to Chernobog, thanking him for giving him the strength to do it. Waving goodbye at the door, he promises he will never forget that the god saved his life. But Chernobog just brushes it off, telling him not to give him so much credit. Classic. From the doorway, Baghead insists he saved himself, which is some solid character growth. And with a final slam, the door closes, separating the unlikely duo for now. Chernobog then turns his attention to the host, calling him Yora for the first time. As his bird half Io takes flight, dropping a new, much fluffier cloak for him, which is a very serious and intimidating fashion statement, obviously. With Io returning to his shoulder, Chernobog glares up at the floating host, warning Yora to choose his next words very, very carefully. His demand is simple and to the point: send him home right now. Yora just scoffs, asking if he thinks he is all that just for beating another god. Then he swings what looks like a giant broom with blinding speed, and it connects with a massive whap, knocking Chernobog clean off his feet. Yora gets right in his face, telling the pagan god to remember his place. Chernobog grits his teeth, realizing he is completely outmatched in a straight fight, because without fear or prayer to fuel him, he has got no way to defeat Yora. This host reassures him he will not be joining Baghead, which sounds way more threatening than comforting. Yora gestures to a door, telling Chernobog he is being sent to hang out with the others. Our boy is immediately suspicious, wondering who the hell he is talking about. This host just gives a smug little nod, confirming his statement without any more detail. Then he asks for a little favor, like he is doing Chernobog a solid. With a snap of his fingers, he tells him to at least try and make some friends. How thoughtful. That snap sends Chernobog flying backwards into the unknown, completely caught off guard. Yora adds that his very life depends on it, which is not at all reassuring. And Chernobog lands with a brutal faceplant in a brand new location, a great start. He has been dropped into some kind of fancy hall filled with other divine-looking beings. Looking absolutely disgusted with this whole situation, he picks himself up off the floor. This place is apparently called the Box, and it looks like a VIP lounge for gods. A trio of goddesses immediately gives him the stink eye, clearly not thrilled to see him. Other gods are whispering, wondering how a mere participant got a sponsor to be here. Chernobog is completely lost, having no clue what this sponsor talk is even about. Suddenly, a new voice calls out from a balcony, greeting all the familiar faces. A spider-legged host welcomes everyone to the first ever god game. Oh, this is getting bigger. He introduces himself as Anansi, a trickster god, promising the winner any wish they desire. That last part gets Chernobog's attention, the idea of a wish changing his entire demeanor. His little bird skull buddy Io seems to be on the same page. With a glint in his eye, Chernobog realizes a wish could solve all his problems. His mind flashes to a dark vision, a promise that a wish could change everything. This one with all that power, according to the host, is right here in this very room. Looking up, Chernobog spots the supposed big boss on a balcony high above the crowd. This new figure is just labeled God, rocking a purple energy crown and a very intimidating aura. From his perch, he welcomes all the assembled gods and goddesses to this grand event. Anansi, the spider-legged host, gets the crowd hyped, asking if they are ready for the show, and the divine audience absolutely loses it, cheering like it is the concert of the century. Chernobog, however, is completely unimpressed by this whole spectacle, just watching from the sidelines. It is a massive gathering of deities from every single pantheon, all in one place for this game. He wonders if they are all participants, but quickly realizes that cannot possibly be the case. Suddenly, a new voice calls him out as the lone deity, and a shadowy figure approaches. This newcomer introduces himself as Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Great, another charming personality. With a smug grin, he gets right to the point, calling out Chernobog for being a prayerless god. Our boy just glares as Hades twists the knife, asking what a god is without any believers. This answer, delivered with maximum condescension, is just a lost idea. Hades then gives a backhanded compliment about his divine art, saying it is the only thing keeping him from disappearing. He also reveals he watched the fight against Eidos, calling it quite the entertaining match. Chernobog immediately fires back, noting Hades does not seem very broken up about Nemesis. He even spells it out for him: Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance. Then he drops the big question, asking if they are not both from the same Greek pantheon. Hades just smirks, coolly admitting he knows who Nemesis is and does not seem upset at all. He calls her erratic, basically saying it was only a matter of time before someone took her out. And besides, she was a champion for Zeus, not him, so not his problem, not his pantheon. His attention then shifts to the main stage, announcing the real show is about to start. Chernobog immediately clocks the family drama, noting the bad blood between Hades and his brother. As a giant screen lights up, Hades just tells our boy to shut up and watch, and Anansi gets on the mic, presenting the first batch of contestants for the gods to sponsor. First up is a legendary German warrior, looking all broody and mysterious in the spotlight. He is rocking a ridiculously oversized sword just to make sure everyone gets the message. This announcer casually mentions he is known for, slaying a dragon or two, and his name is Siegfried the Dragon Slayer because of course it is. Next on the docket is a mighty maiden, the legendary heroine of the Hike clan. Stepping into the light is Tomo Gozen, looking calm and completely ready for a fight. Hades explains to a very confused Chernobog that these are some of the best participants around. Immediately, a cat-eared goddess decides she is sponsoring Siegfried because he is a total hunk, priorities. Her much more serious companion calls that a foolish reason, saying he is waiting for other choices. Our boy is still stuck on this whole sponsors thing, trying to piece together the rules. Hades clarifies that these contestants are the players in this so-called god game, and all the gods in this VIP lounge are just here to bet on who they think will win. When Chernobog asks what the stakes are, Hades just casually flips him a glowing betting chip. Hades lays out the rules. These chips are basically a god's popularity score in physical form, and the more chips you bet on a champion, the more of your power they can borrow. He then twists the knife, pointing out Chernobog gets 0 chips since he has 0 followers, brutal. Our boy is still catching up, so Hades clarifies that betting literally lends your divine power to a contestant. Using a helpful chibi diagram to show how more coins equals a bigger power-up for the champion. You can even spread your bets across multiple fighters to hedge your odds, like a divine fantasy league. But with 2 million souls competing, Hades warns him to choose his champion very carefully. Because, as he ominously adds, there are some very serious consequences for losing. And that word, consequences, definitely gets Chernobog's attention, his expression souring. When he asks for details, Hades just shushes him, telling him to focus on the show, declaring from his balcony perch that he is shopping for his perfect contestant. Back on the mic, Anansi introduces the next fighter as a total wild card, and Chernobog's eyes widen as Anansi reveals this kid does not even have a name. Hades just smirks, saying they will just have to use his nickname then. As Anansi presents the quiet fighter who stood against Chernobog himself, it is Baghead. He is officially announced as 4, looking absolutely terrified in the spotlight, and our boy just sweats buckets, giving the most awkward hello in the history of death games. This entire audience of gods falls into a dead, judgmental silence, until one of the goddesses whispers in disbelief, realizing this is the mortal who supposedly beat Chernobog. Anansi hypes him up as a genuine godslayer, while Baghead tries to explain he had a little help. This divine peanut gallery immediately starts booing, with one guy offering a bounty to whoever takes Baghead out. This whole crowd of gods gets super intense, threatening to jump him if he does not leave the stage. And Chernobog just watches this whole mess unfold, saying absolutely nothing. Hades pops up asking if that is his partner, and Chernobog delivers the coldest no in history. Baghead looks totally defeated for a second, but then clenches his fist with a new resolve. He stands tall, declaring they were not trying to be heroes, they were just fighting to survive. And that simple honesty seems to hit Chernobog, who just mutters, "That is all." Hades, meanwhile, is loving every second of this drama, flashing a predatory grin. Anansi tries to get the crowd under control because apparently gods are a tough room. He then tells Baghead sorry, but maybe some leftover gods will sponsor him later, what a burn. But just as he is being dismissed, a voice roars out for Anansi to wait a moment. This host turns around, completely baffled by the interruption. It is Hades holding up that single betting chip and declaring he wants to sponsor the kid. This move leaves the entire divine audience completely speechless and confused. Even the big boss, God himself, seems to be taking an interest from his throne. Anansi thinks it is a joke, calling Hades out for being a clown. Hades just coolly flips his chip, asking if he really seems like the joking type. With a deadly serious look, he announces he is putting all his prayer on the boy in the bag. This crowd absolutely loses it, and Baghead has no idea what to even think. Other gods start mocking him, wondering why he'd go all in on someone so obviously weak. Anansi tries to get the divine mob under control, telling everyone to just chill out. This host turns to Hades, double-checking if he really just made that absolutely insane bet. With a grin that could curdle milk, Hades confirms he is 100% serious. Baghead, meanwhile, is sweating buckets but thinks this is a good sign. Oh, you poor naive soul. Chernobog questions the logic, asking why he'd go all in on one unknown fighter like that. Hades just counters with a smug, "But what if I am right?" The ultimate high roller's comeback. Our boy is completely unimpressed, deciding that the god of the underworld is just plain crazy. Down on the stage, Baghead looks up at the balcony, recognizing a familiar face in the crowd. He's pointing right at Chernobog, calling him the god who saved him, which is not quite right. This very public, very wrong declaration leaves Chernobog and Io completely baffled. This kid starts bowing like a madman, thanking Chernobog profusely for sponsoring him, sir. Hades is absolutely loving the mix-up, teasing that they are friends, but Chernobog just tells him to shut it. Chernobog just sighs, thinking at least Baghead has a fighting chance now as Anansi tries to move on. Hades asks if our boy is leaving, and Chernobog confirms it is a waste of time since he cannot sponsor anyone. This god of the underworld heads for the exit himself, assuming Chernobog is done with the show too. But a nearby goddess seems surprised, noting that Chernobog is actually sticking around for some reason. He tells you he is on his way out, completely missing Yora, the original host, peeking from behind a pillar. That is definitely the guy who threw him in here, rocking a very smug, just as planned look. Ignoring everyone, Chernobog just heads for the nearest door to get out of this divine circus. He swings it open and finds a hallway of giant floating blades, so much for a simple exit. Chernobog looks out the window, dryly noting they are floating in the middle of nowhere. Great. He grimly accepts that there is probably no actual exit from this so-called God game. Suddenly, Eidos pops up to explain the whole thing is a divine purge designed by God himself. He recalls how in round 1, all the gods' powers were nerfed, flashing back to his own defeat. If Chernobog had been at full power, Eidos admits he would have been toast instantly. This whole system was rigged to make sure any god who lost was officially labeled unworthy. But on the bright side, Eidos points out at least they know there is a prize for winning this whole mess. That grand prize is a single, all-powerful wish, and you can see the gears turning in his head. He thinks about his people, the ones who worship him and give him his purpose. With a wish, he tells Io he could change everything about their existence for the better. A voice from a doorway asks if he is really that disappointed in how he was made. It is Yora, the original host, stepping out and calling that whole idea pretty pathetic. Eidos fires back, asking if Yora's really that confident after just one round. With a smug look, Yora just tells him to trust the process, calling him Eidos. Our antlered god just stands there, taking in this incredibly punchable new attitude. Yora then announces that the show's just getting started as round 2 officially begins. This scene shifts to a massive arena where gods are already picking their champions from balconies above. 2 goddesses watch the spectacle, commenting that their dear older brother has clearly lost his mind. And look who it is, Zeus and Poseidon, with Zeus saying Hades has a lot in common with that kid. Zeus looks particularly unimpressed as a hand rests on his shoulder, getting his attention. That hand belongs to Hera, goddess of marriage, and she looks like she's about to have a very serious talk with her husband. Zeus, meanwhile, just tells his brother to let him know if anyone interesting appears, completely ignoring her. She immediately calls him out, saying his idea of busy is just getting drunk and rambling with Poseidon. As usual, she is stuck holding the entire pantheon together during a crisis while he just messes around. Her expression just screams that she is 100% done with his divine nonsense. He finally turns, asking what the big crisis is, this time with maximum condescension in his voice. She explains a rogue god is slaughtering their kin, asking if that is a big enough problem for him to notice. Zeus cannot even be bothered to remember the guy's name, casually guessing Eblos or something. Hera absolutely snaps, reminding him his own daughter Nemesis was killed and he is just letting it slide. He is completely unconcerned, confident a craven like that could never survive God's game anyway. Admitting Nemesis's death was a shame, he pauses, and you can just feel the world's worst but coming. And there it is. He will not cry for her because she was weak enough to lose to a god with 0 believers. She just facepalms, telling him he is missing the point as always while he smugly strokes his beard. For Hera, this is all about reputation. Letting a minor god get away with this makes them all look pathetic. She insists an Olympian has to be the one to take Chernobog's life to make a statement. Then she brings up his other kids, saying they were lucky only one got killed and asking what if he is next. She drops the real bombshell. Chernobog has already come to blows with their son Hermes. That finally gets Zeus's attention, as Hera explains God sent Hermes to collect Eidos for the game. She pleads with him, warning that if they do not act, the other pantheons will see them as weak. Suddenly, Zeus's whole demeanor shifts, lightning crackling as he realizes they are already being mocked for falling. She is absolutely furious, declaring that the Olympians are becoming a laughingstock for all of heaven. And that is the last straw. Zeus's fist comes down with a crackle of lightning, shouting, "Enough." He literally slams her into the ground, a brutal display of power that shuts down the argument instantly. With God watching from his throne, Zeus declares he will handle this problem, but it'll be on his terms. He then gently holds her face and she agrees to his plan, a very sudden and very creepy shift in tone. Meanwhile, Chernobog is being led through a beautiful, floating paradise by that host in the top hat. This host explains he was ordered to shackle every single god, and our boy is no exception, no special treatment here. And with a cheerful best of luck, the host just ditches him, leaving Chernobog completely baffled. He is just left standing there in front of a random door, wondering what the heck just happened. Suddenly, a new face appears. It is Helios, the Greek god of the sun, and Chernobog is thrilled sarcastically. Helios is all smiles, asking if this divine realm is not just the most beautiful place ever. Our boy just deadpans that it is a little too bright for his tastes. The goth energy is strong with this one. Looking out at the floating islands, Chernobog realizes he is finally in the land of the gods. He even admits he has never had enough followers to get an invitation up here before, which is just sad. Then the gears start turning as he realizes it is just the 2 of them all alone. His hand clenches as a dark thought crosses his mind. Maybe killing Helios is his ticket out of here. But Helios, without even looking back, casually mentions that plenty of others have tried that and failed. His eyes start to glow as he explains everyone's powers are nerfed in this place. With a predatory grin, Helios tells him flat out that he does not stand a chance against him. Chernobog just folds his arms, insisting he does not want to fight anyway. Sure you do not, buddy. Eidos has to admit Helios has a point about being outmatched. He can feel his divine power being actively suppressed by the shackles around his waist, and it is the exact same nerfing effect they all felt back in round 1. These golden chains are definitely the cause, leaving him feeling totally weak. His eyes dart over to the sun god, a crucial question forming in his mind. Standing on a cliff edge, he asks Helios if the whole Grand Wish prize is for real. Helios just gives him a smug look, basically asking him to connect the dots himself, real helpful. Our antlered god reasons that the most popular god would naturally have the most power here. Getting way too close for comfort, Helios asks why he is so fired up about the wish. This question leaves Eidos completely baffled, wondering how this guy even knows his name. With a blindingly confident smile, Helios boasts he knows everything under the sun. What a shocker. Not a fan of the personal space invasion, Eidos tells him to back off and Helios just laughs. He starts to concede a point about the place though, saying he will admit one thing. Helios finishes his sentence, saying it is not so bad once you get used to the brightness. This two of them just look out at the beautiful, sun-drenched realm for a moment. Still, Eidos looks skeptical, asking if it is just him or if something's off. Then Helios points to the sky, revealing his absolutely epic sun chariot pulled by flaming horses. He proudly declares that the sun itself is his personal ride, and it is pulled across the sky by his own fiery steeds just to flex on everyone. Based on that little show, Helios asks if he can guess the next game, leaving Eidos totally clueless. Helios gets real friendly with his golden horse, turning to Eidos with a loaded question. He asks if our boy has ever been in a chariot race, you know, the popular kids game. Eidos just stands there, completely bewildered by the sudden suggestion of a death race. With maximum condescension, Helios figures the Olympians never invited him, but this version is special. He explains the rules. Gods pick 2 mortals for their team, with the most popular getting first dibs. And since Eidos has 0 worshippers, he gets to pick last, a brutal but hilarious burn. Our boy processes this, realizing each team is a 3-person squad of 1 god and 2 humans. Now for the fun part, Helios says, laying out the official rules for round 2. Every floating island they see is a starting point for another team, setting up a massive battle royale. 1 person drives while the other 2 play defense. Basically, it is a divine demolition derby. Helios then points out the random power-ups scattered across the course just to spice things up. Touching one of these infusions gives your chariot a random boost, Mario Kart style. Oh, and he casually mentions that murder and destroying other chariots is totally fine, no big deal. Eidos cuts to the chase, asking if this means the winners get to live. This sun god gets real vague, saying an unknown number of top teams will survive to the next round. And with a grin that promises nothing good, he confirms everyone else gets eliminated. Switching gears, he gets way too excited about meeting the teammates, while Eidos is clearly not feeling it. 2 massive golden pillars of light slam down as Helios wonders why he is not hyped for this. Leaning in, he asks if Eidos is not just a little curious about his new partners in survival. The 2 poor souls who will be risking their lives right alongside him in this mess, and out of the light steps a dude with a paper bag on his head striking a pose. His paper bag face, complete with a weird symbol, somehow conveys pure unadulterated shock. With flowers blooming around him, he leaps towards Eidos, absolutely thrilled they are on the same team. From Eidos' perspective, this guy looks like the world's weirdest, most enthusiastic angel. This majestic entrance ends with a spectacular faceplant right at Eidos' feet, 0 grace. When Eidos asks what the heck he is doing, the guy just says he's excited to be together again. Helios just laughs, assuming these 2 are already best buds based on that display. Eidos immediately shuts that down while Baghead enthusiastically agrees, a real meeting of the minds. Turning to his little familiar, Eidos notes that their 3rd and final teammate is next. This second golden portal opens, revealing a new warrior who looks way more serious than the last one. With glowing eyes, she steps out and immediately asks what they are all gawking at. Great first impression. Turns out she's Tomo Gozen, one of the most feared female samurai in history. Baghead is immediately terrified, and even Eidos admits she's got a seriously intimidating aura. He internally notes that a legendary warrior like her should have been a top draft pick for any team. Which begs the question, why did a top-tier fighter get stuck with the team that picks last? Tomo just stares them down, her expression a perfect mix of judgment and disappointment. In his head, he can just hear her thinking they are doomed because their god only has 1 arm. Then she turns on Baghead, asking how pathetic trash like him even survived the first round. Getting right in his face, she mocks him for being too scared to even show his face. She finishes by telling him to pull his own weight or die, calling him a pig, and he just squeals. Eidos figures it out, her terrible attitude is probably why a top-tier warrior was left for last. With their dysfunctional squad finally assembled, he looks on, wondering what is next. Helios gets all dramatic, announcing it is time to meet the chariot they will be defending with their lives. A dark, swirling portal opens, and our boy just watches with his usual lack of enthusiasm. Then his jaw just drops, utterly speechless at what comes crawling out of the shadows. From the darkness emerges a horse made of pure gloom, wreathed in purple flame, and their chariot has a deeply unsettling face carved into the front, not exactly a confidence booster. This whole depressing ensemble appears, pulled by 2 winged horses straight out of a goth's dream journal. Eidos is just stunned, trying to process the sheer emo energy of his brand new ride. He asks why it is so depressing, but Baghead is absolutely in love with it, calling it cute. Helios just cracks up, explaining the chariots are synced to their captains' personalities, which of course means this sad mobile is a perfect reflection of Eidos himself. A savage burn. Even his teammates get it, with Tomo's chibai head basically saying, "Yeah, that tracks." Now standing on his own glorious golden ride, Helios tells them it is time to get the race started. Tomo calls out, asking for some basic info like how big the course is or where it ends. Baghead chimes in, pointing out there do not seem to be any actual roads or tracks to follow. With a knowing smile, Helios turns back to drop another bombshell on them. He reveals the racetrack for this round is literally the entire world they are on. This team is shocked as he explains there is no set finish line for this particular death race. Instead, the goal is simple. Everyone has to race to reach him, the sun itself. Baghead stammers that they have to catch the sun, and Helios just confirms it is that simple. With a massive grin, he declares this the perfect game for gods, a race to catch a literal shooting star. Baghead brings up the minor issue of not burning alive, but Tomo roasts him for applying logic to a sun god. Helios tells them to pick a driver already, helpfully reminding them they are the last team to start. This most dysfunctional team in history stands ready, with Ito's grimly accepting the race is about to begin. Even their goth Pegasus seems to be getting hyped, snorting as if to signal the start is near. This rules finally drop. Helios gets a 1-hour head start at full speed, and only some teams will survive. He does add one handicap though. After that first hour, his chariot cannot use power-ups, giving them a sliver of hope. With his back turned and eyes glowing ominously, he asks if they are all ready for the chaos. Then he spins around with a cheerful wave, telling everyone to have fun because this is totally a game. Ito's crew just watches him go, their own chariot pulsing with some seriously ominous purple symbols. With a final manic grin, Helios officially kicks things off, shouting that it is time to chase the sun. Ito's just stares ahead, his expression all business as he mentally prepares for the game to start. And just like that, Helios's golden chariot rockets into the sky, leaving a brilliant trail of light behind him. Meanwhile, Baghead is at the reins, sweating buckets and looking like he has never seen a horse in his life. Tomo immediately starts yelling at him, and he panics, admitting he knows nothing about horses, let alone a Pegasus. She grabs the reins herself, showing him how to snap them to get moving, a real hands-on, very angry teacher. Their spooky horses respond with a snort, purple energy flaring from their eyes as they finally get the message. With a powerful lurch, the gloomy chariot finally takes off, launching them straight into the air. Now they are airborne, flying past the floating islands with Io right beside them, officially joining the death race. Ito's just watches the chaos unfold, his face a perfect mask of grim determination. Baghead, on the other hand, is having a full-blown panic attack, begging the reins to please go up. Their goth Pegasi respond by just yeeting the whole chariot into the sky's zero grace, all momentum. Tomo immediately starts yelling at him for his terrible steering, while he begs for a minute to learn on the job. Our antlered god and his new samurai teammate just stand there, sharing a look of pure, unadulterated regret. His little familiar Io apparently has a plan, and Tomo is just shocked Ito's can understand the spooky bird. Ito's lays out the strategy. Since Helios cannot use boosts, they need to find a speed power-up to close the gap. This is their only real shot at catching the sun god, who is already a tiny golden speck in the distance. And just like that, Baghead spots their first potential power-up on a floating island below them. He asks if he should try to dive for the glowing green prize, looking for any kind of leadership. Then a horrifying thought hits him. If these things are the key to winning, everyone's gonna be fighting over them. Right on cue, a massive explosion rocks the air right next to their chariot. Talk about perfect timing. Another team swoops in, already bickering amongst themselves while trying to blast our crew out of the sky. Ito's dryly confirms that yes, it looks like they want to contest that power-up. Tomo, however, looks absolutely thrilled at the prospect of some actual violence. She orders Baghead to get them closer, but he is pretty sure that is a fantastic way to get them all killed. With a smirk, she says she does not need to be right on top of them as her hand glows with blue energy. She just needs to be close enough to use her newly summoned spirit bow. This is her element. Both Ito's and Baghead are completely floored, with our boy admitting that is seriously impressive. Fired up or maybe just terrified into competence, Baghead steals himself at the reins, ready to go. With a new sense of purpose or maybe just terror, Baghead vows to do his best at the reins. Below them, a defender on the rival team points them out, letting her crew know they have company. Her spear-wielding partner gets way too confident, declaring that this time our heroes are finished for good. Tomo, however, just stands there calmly, channeling a terrifying amount of blue energy into her weapon. As the enemy lunges, she meets his attack with a simple, almost polite sorry, but there is no this time, she says with a smirk, an absolutely legendary pre-fight one-liner. And then she just unleashes a massive wave of energy, completely shutting the guy down in a flash of blue and red. This whole scene triggers a flashback for Ito's, who is seen lying in a field complaining to Io about his worshippers. He wonders why his followers think he wants them to stab people 54 times as a sacrifice, a totally reasonable question. His spooky bird familiar just squawks in response, probably thinking the same thing. Ito's then admits it is not like his worshippers ever talk to him, so he cannot exactly set them straight. They are just too afraid of him, a point driven home by a vision of robed figures dragging someone off. Staring up at the stars, he wonders if he will ever meet someone who is not completely terrified of him. Io seems to offer some encouragement, and Ito's agrees it would be nice to meet interesting people for once. He does not know when that day will come, his eyes filled with a quiet, lonely hope. But he wishes it would be soon, a thought that cuts right back to Tomo being awesome in the present. Snapped back to reality, Ito's is just stunned by her incredible speed and raw power. He yells for Baghead to steer them under her for support while the guy frantically tries to drive. Up above, Tomo's attack has already done its job, leaving the spear guy in a very bad way. But the rival team's god, a small girl with horns, grabs her own reins, refusing to back down. Tomo hangs in the air, having just completely neutralized that spear guy with zero effort. Her gaze locks onto the enemy god, basically telling her she is completely cornered now. With glowing eyes, the horned god just seethes, absolutely refusing to be intimidated. In fact, she screams, "Die," and hurls her own spear right at their chariot. It smashes into their ride with a massive bam, a direct hit from below. This horned god is stunned though because her attack barely even left a scratch, and Baghead nervously asks if his driving was okay. He totally blocked it on purpose. Tomo lands gracefully, giving him a rare compliment for his surprisingly competent move. A wild grin spreads across her face, thinking this useless guy might actually be good support. This sudden display of teamwork has the enemy god panicking, realizing she is in trouble. Her face just contorts with pure rage and a healthy dose of oh crap. Meanwhile, Tomo's eyes are practically vibrating with battle lust. She is absolutely loving this. Without hesitation, she unleashes another devastating strike, slicing right through the horned god. Even wounded, the god scoffs, finding it hilarious that Tomo thinks she can order her to die. Tomo just looks down on her, splattered in red, and coldly calls her scum. But suddenly a new threat appears. A golden, lightning-charged crossbow aims right at them. It is held by the other team's actual god, a stoic-looking dude with white hair. Our samurai just clicks her tongue, more annoyed by the interruption than anything else. Before he can fire, though, Ito's dives in from above to intercept him personally. This new god unleashes a massive blast of green energy, meeting Ito's head-on. Ito slams into the white-haired god, erupting in a massive shockwave of green energy. This rival god is sent tumbling through the air, completely caught off guard by the impact. Plummeting towards his chariot, he just screams in pure, unadulterated rage. Both fighters land back on their rides, with the other team's god looking seriously rattled. And Baghead, ever the professional, immediately asks for a performance review on his driving. Tomo is having none of it, screaming at her god to just get them the hell out of there. Meanwhile, another team gets absolutely wrecked by explosions, a friendly reminder this is a death race. Then a massive golden blast comes screaming right for them, no time for a breather. Tomo grabs Ito's by the collar, convinced she is about to die with these morons, and he just accepts it. Below them, another team makes a beeline for a blue power-up floating in the water. Ito's just calmly tells Baghead to ignore it and keep going, much to his driver's confusion. He then asks the kid a simple question. After everything they have been through, does he trust him? Baghead, terrified but loyal, immediately stammers out a yes, sir, no hesitation. With that settled, Ito's begins to channel some seriously ominous purple energy. From the island below, shadowy tentacles erupt from the ground, answering his call. A rival team just gawks in horror as the tendrils shoot straight for their chariot. In an instant, the shadows completely envelop their ride, grabbing it tight. Tomo's jaw just drops, watching this display with total disbelief. She stares at Ito's, who is casually controlling this eldritch horror with one hand. And for the first time, she is left wondering what kind of god she is actually teamed up with. Ito's shadow tentacles have completely ensnared another chariot, and its crew is desperately trying to hack them away. On another chariot, a dark-skinned god looks on in total shock, recognizing Ito's by name. This new god is completely baffled since he was under the impression Ito's had 0 followers to begin with, and his worshipper is some kind of knight, crackling with blue divine energy and ready to go. This rival god is stunned, questioning how this mortal is even capable of wielding divine art. His brain just completely short-circuits at the sight. This should not be possible. Suddenly, a massive blue energy blast erupts nearby, catching Ito's attention from below. This whole crew looks back, with Baghead wondering what fresh hell is unfolding behind them now. Ito's just stares, at a complete loss for words at this brand new development. Because yet another team has shown up, led by a goddess with glowing eyes who warns her crew they have got company. Ito's grimly notes this new crew looks dangerous, then asks Baghead, apparently named 4, how that power-up is coming along. Our boy, now officially 4, leans over and successfully snags the blue power-up from the island below. This moment he touches it, blue energy violently surges up his arm, catching him completely off guard. Power courses through his hand as he realizes this is way more than just a simple boost. He starts spasming uncontrollably while Tomo impatiently tells him to get it together and use the damn thing. Ito's watches the chaos, a grim look on his face as he admits he is just working on a hunch here. This scene cuts to a completely different goddess, whose glowing green eyes hint she is a major player in all this. Turns out we are watching Zeus and Hera, with Hera complaining and Zeus sarcastically blaming his own infidelity. Classic. Zeus then addresses the green-eyed goddess, confirming that our heroes are the team she picked to help her advance. He calls them an interesting bunch as we are introduced to another member of this mysterious new team, Jaya, an ex-convict from New York. And here is another teammate, Joan of Arc, who is already questioning their odds of survival. Suddenly, a new goddess appears to confront Zeus, and surprise, it is his daughter. She is absolutely not happy to see him, calling him out for sending her to this hellhole. Zeus, now identified as her dad, insists it was not his choice, calling her Artemis. His big defense is that there was a vote, the ultimate godly cop-out. Artemis accuses him of using his own daughter as entertainment for the other gods. Her response is just dripping with sarcasm, calling him so honorable for it. He then tries to play the savior, reaching out with an offer to get her out of this. This deal is simple. She just has to kill a specific participant for him and he will pull some strings. With a dangerous smirk, she questions what he means by her situation. She knows the game. Then she just loses it, laughing maniacally and reminding him he put her here in the first place. Jaya and Joan just watch as she points out the hypocrisy of him offering her freedom now. That sarcastic best dad ever comment finally gets under his skin and he looks pissed. But she is not done, clenching her fist as she starts to unload on him, and on all the other gods who just sit back and watch this death game for fun. This final message for all of them is simple, direct, and not exactly family-friendly. Zeus tries to justify the hit, saying the target nemesis attacked her brother Hermes. He then desperately asks if she is really willing to throw away her immortality over this. She just turns her back on him as he warns her the odds of winning are basically zero, and we see why as she faces a mountain of the fallen, over 1 million killed in round 1 alone. Zeus continues his concerned dad routine, telling Artemis she will not survive without his help. He even dangles an offer to get her friends some sponsors, giving them a better shot at living. Jaya, ever the pragmatist, suggests they hear Sparky out, figuring 1 extra kill is no big deal. Joan immediately agrees with Jaya, giving Artemis a look that says the team comes first. Her argument is that this is not just about Artemis. If it gets them sponsors, they have to consider it. Artemis is just completely over this entire conversation, calling the whole thing annoying. Reluctantly, she agrees to at least hear the terms of this little hunt before deciding. With a seriously sinister look, Zeus finally reveals who the target is, and surprise, it is Eidos, who is currently having a green energy arrow materialize right in his face. This arrow slams into him with a massive F-whoosh, sending him flying backward. Artemis, the shooter, smirks from afar, telling him to just stay still for her. Back on the chariot, Tomo screams at Four to drive, also finding time to roast his outfit. Our boy Four is panicking, admitting he has absolutely no idea how to use the power-up. Tomo basically tells him to figure it out now or they are all about to be killed. Up above, Artemis draws her bow again, lining up a shot to destroy their entire ride. She's got a look of pure, smug confidence, absolutely certain this is the final blow. As the arrow screams down, Four just looks up, thinking you will do, not exactly inspiring. But Eidos' eyes suddenly flare with that ominous purple power. He is not done yet. This goddess unleashes her shot, a massive blast of green energy meant to end them, and Eidos just casually swats it aside with his own power, completely nullifying her attack. Eidos unleashes his divine art, his hand crackling with some seriously ominous purple energy. He calls it shadow manipulation, focusing the raw power right in front of his face. This energy forms a hex-patterned shield, just in time to meet Artemis's attack head-on, but her green arrow just shatters his defense like it is made of cheap glass. Eidos is completely stunned, his brain basically short-circuiting at how useless his move was. At that exact moment, Four finally gets the power-up working, crackling with blue energy. This chariot's horses go full-on nightmare mode, and the ride itself gets a creepy new face. With a massive boost, their entire chariot just rockets straight up into the sky. From below, another goddess spots their trail, asking if that is the guy who killed Nemesis. She scoffs, calling Eidos a loser who can barely use his powers and has no followers. Her companion listens as the plan is laid out, find a power-up and hunt them down. This new goddess smirks, promising to get her team out of this whole death race herself. Meanwhile, our crew's chariot is now a glorified firework heading for the upper atmosphere. Four proudly announces he got the augmentation working just in the nick of time. He then immediately complains they are not even close to the sun, wondering how they will catch Helios. Turning around, he asks why everyone's so quiet, completely oblivious to Tomo's death glare. She is staring down their unexpected passenger, the horned god who is somehow still alive. This horned god is just coughing up blood, looking like she is barely holding on. An arrow is lodged in the floor of the chariot, a grim reminder of their close call, and the wounded god just sits there, clutching her chest with a bird on her shoulder. This horned god, bleeding out, tries to act tough for his little bird buddy, totally convincing. Tomo immediately starts roasting him, saying Four's driving is the only reason he is not dead. She then asks how a supposed god is so weak he could not even block a single arrow. Her final verdict is that he is practically mortal, which is why he got sent here to die. But Four is not having any of this slander, jumping in to defend his boss. He tells Tomo she has no idea what Eidos is capable of when his enemies actually fear him. A quick flashback shows Eidos absolutely wrecking a monster, with Four hyping him up as unstoppable. Tomo's reaction is a masterclass in sarcasm, completely unimpressed by the hype. Looking down at the bleeding god, she points out that he does not look very scary at the moment, and Eidos, to his credit, just has to admit she's got a point there. He then explains his power. His divine art literally converts fear into prayer-fueled strength. This problem was Artemis was not scared at all, and the only one panicking was Four. Which is why his purple shield got shattered like a cheap dinner plate by her arrow. Tomo finally gets it, gods need prayer, and Eidos has 0 worshippers, making him powerless. Eidos then flips the script, asking why she is so strong but has not used her own divine power. Four, ever the helpful nerd, corrects her. It is divine art, not divine power, and they are different. Eidos clarifies that divine art comes from prayer, while divine power is borrowed juice a god gives a mortal. He deduces that since Hades chose her, she should be tapping into his massive power reserves. She explains it is not that easy, since mortals have limits and it all depends on the sponsor god. Internally, she is just baffled that this god of fear is so chummy with the paper bag guy. Tomo just stares at the bleeding Eidos, basically asking what his whole deal is. With a dramatic flourish, she whips off her own cloak, and underneath she is rocking a very distinct black and white striped outfit. She then tosses the cloak over to the wounded god, but makes it crystal clear she is not playing nurse. He can wrap his own damn wound. Eidos is just completely baffled by this gesture of aggressive helpfulness. Blushing furiously, Tomo insists she just cannot have him bleeding all over her ride. Four thinks this is the cutest thing ever, earning him a swift shut up from Tomo. Eidos, ignoring the bickering, just rips the cloth into a bandage with his purple glowing hand. Wrapping his chest, he admits it has been a hot minute since he has been injured this badly. He then shares a knowing look with his little bird buddy, seemingly agreeing with it. His eyes widen as a pretty heavy realization hits him. This is the first time anyone's ever offered him something that was not just pure fear. Tomo immediately snaps him out of his sentimental funk, demanding to know what he is thinking. As they fly over a vast desert, she is already complaining that she regrets helping him. Right on cue, a massive explosion erupts from the sand below them. A giant spiky lizard monster bursts from the ground, looking absolutely furious. While 4 freaks out, Ito's calmly identifies it as a basilisk and warns them not to meet its gaze. Tomo's eyes begin to glow a fierce turquoise. She is ready for this. She tells Paperbag to get ready for a pickup because she is about to jump down and handle it. Ito's immediately shoots down her plan, saying her little spear will not even scratch the basilisk. But she just calmly steps forward, telling them there is something they have clearly misunderstood. With a confident smirk, she declares they have absolutely no idea how strong she really is, and then she just swan dives right off the chariot, plunging toward the monster below. Ito's is completely stunned by her recklessness, screaming at 4 to follow her down. Our boy 4, ever the loyal subordinate, just says on it and grabs the reins. As she plummets toward the desert floor, a flashback reveals how pitiful her life has been. She spent her entire existence being forged into a weapon for someone else's war. Kneeling before her lord, she was nothing more than a tool to be wielded in his battles. When her master finally perished, her whole purpose in life just vanished with him. Facing her own end, she finally wondered what it would even be like to live for herself. Now, falling into the jaws of a monster, she realizes this death game might be her answer. She tightens her grip on her weapon, a new resolve hardening in her eyes. This is her chance to finally fight for her own sake, and she is absolutely taking it. Tapping into her sponsor's strength, she calls upon the divine power she was given. Unleashing an attack called Lion's Gale, courtesy of the Egyptian god Shu. A massive blast of energy just cleaves the basilisk's head clean in two, and she just keeps falling, slicing the entire monster down the middle on her way down. Up on the chariot, Ito's and 4 can only stare, their jaws practically on the floor. Landing gracefully, she sarcastically asks if its gaze is supposed to kill you. Too bad it is headless. Tomo just smirks, saying its deadly gaze does not matter if she kills it first. And with a massive slosh, she proves her point by bisecting the monster's skull. She lands on its corpse like an absolute boss, wreathed in that turquoise divine energy. Right on cue, 4 swoops in with the chariot for a dramatic midair pickup. Somehow they stick the landing without crashing, which is a minor miracle for 4. Back on board, she casually mentions she was not sure if the idiots would actually catch her. Both Ito's and 4 are just staring at her, their brains completely fried by that display. Ito's immediately calls her out, asking why she hid that power when Artemis was about to kill them. Her response is a casual laugh, basically asking if he is seriously upset about that. She explains there was no reason to show her hand to them, even if they are temporary allies. Because at the end of the day, in this death game, they are all still enemies. 4 starts to stammer that she has a point, but Ito's cuts him off before he can finish. Surprisingly, Ito's agrees with her, admitting she is right to be cautious, but he warns her that this lone wolf attitude is going to get her killed eventually. He reminds her this is not some small-time brawl, it is a game with history's strongest champions. His eyes glow that ominous purple again as he says if she truly wants to survive. None of them have the luxury of holding back their true power from each other. Even his little skull-faced bird buddy, Io, squawks in emphatic agreement. Ito's then hilariously blames the bird, saying Io told him to start being a team player. Tomo just sighs, finally giving in and agreeing to be more transparent from now on. With the basilisk handled, Ito's demands they all share their backstories to make things fair. Tomo just shrugs and agrees, saying it is not like she was hiding anything to begin with. Ito's then points to 4 to start his story as they fly towards some ominous rock spires. Suddenly, we cut to Germany, where a massive blue energy dome just explodes in a forest. A woman is just joyfully riding a massive wave, laughing her head off without a care in the world. This whole scene then flashes back to 500 BC, where a pointy-eared god is absolutely panicking. This god, identified as Belebog, claws at his own face, screaming about why this was done to him, and in a flash, his neck is just snapped by an unseen assailant. His killer, a stone-cold, white-haired god, says he should have seen this coming. Out of the shadows emerges a demonic figure in black armor, calling the killer brother. This is Chernobog, the black god, and he is clearly not happy with this family reunion. He confronts his brother Belebog about the powerful new body he has acquired. Chernobog starts roasting him for being a total pantheon bootlicker who just follows orders. His brother just looks annoyed as Chernobog tells him to get a mind of his own for once. This rant continues, pointing out how sketchy this new one-god system is to anyone with a brain. A cool visual shows Belebog's golden light clashing with Chernobog's dark, shadowy presence. Belebog claims he has always tried to defend his brother, which is about to be proven false. But Chernobog calls him out, saying he never trusts the very establishment he serves. With a massive golden slash, Belebog just cuts his own brother down without hesitation. His eyes glow as he says this is exactly why the heavens will never trust Chernobog. Chernobog lies defeated, officially branded an outcast for his spectacular failure. Elsewhere, Belebog cannot even process the news that his brother is actually dead. A masked king confirms it. Chernobog got wiped in round 1 despite being a top contender. His king calls him pathetic for losing to a god with 0 worshippers, a clear shot at Ito's. This whole death game, he explains, is just his personal project to cull the unworthy from immortality. Belebog immediately starts sucking up, asking his god king if he's been a good little servant. After getting a yes, he volunteers to enter the game himself, clearly out for blood. He gets super twitchy and obsessive, vowing to find this prayerless god who killed his brother. This guy is literally scratching himself raw, completely consumed by this need for revenge. And from a distance, he spots our heroes flying through the mountains. He has found his target. Seeing them, he finally processes that his brother Chernobog is truly gone for good. He wonders aloud how he can make things right, which sounds ominous as hell coming from him. His face then twists into pure rage, revealing his true violent intentions. Meanwhile, back on the chariot, Tomo is just verbally abusing For being a useless paper bag. She shakes him, absolutely baffled that he does not even know how his own divine power works. For sweats nervously, pointing out that it is not like he came with an instruction manual. He then asks if she will teach him, earning a massive facepalm for his adorable cluelessness. Eidos finally steps in, telling them to cut it out so For can actually focus on steering. With surprising patience, he tells For to just think about how his powers function. A handy infographic then explains divine power is just borrowed juice from a god's divine art. Eidos explains that against the basilisk, Tomo used her divine power like a seasoned pro. She's just got that natural-born killer instinct, radiating a quiet, dangerous confidence. He figures the basic knowledge is already hardwired into her brain, just waiting to be unlocked. Then he tells For he just needs to find his own power, which is just peak useless advice. Tomo is clearly getting tired of this little therapy session, giving them both a death glare. Shoving For to the floor, she turns the tables and demands Eidos explain his power source. She guesses it is fueled by negative emotions, assuming he gets stronger from people's fear. Her follow-up question is basically, so you make people cry for a power-up, a totally normal ability. Getting right in his face, she asks how she is supposed to trust he will not betray her for a quick boost. His answer is a dead-eyed, terrifyingly honest, you do not. But then he makes her a promise, trying to add a little honor to the whole we are enemies thing. He says if he were going to stab her, it absolutely would not be in the back. She is a bit thrown by this weirdly respectful threat as For tries to butt in. Tomo grabs him by the collar, telling Dear Head to take his hands off her or get stabbed. Meanwhile, For is in the background having a complete meltdown, trying to get their attention. He is desperately trying to get them to stop their little death threat flirting session. Pointing ahead, he directs their gaze to the icy peaks below where a hand holds a glowing flower. This snow is littered with the frozen bodies of other contestants, all wearing their uniform. Tomo just glances down at the mass grave, completely unfazed by the whole scene. A fiery red orb forms in her hand as she prepares to snatch whatever prize is waiting down there. Tomo's plan is simple, just slash through the whole icy mess with her fiery power. She casually lobs the fiery orb to For, calling him Paperboy as he fumbles to catch it. With a sharp glance at Eidos, she tells him he is not getting out of this conversation either. She tells Eidos he is not fooling her, while For in the back is just marveling at the shiny new toy she gave him. Then she asks what kind of wretched god would even sponsor a guy with powers like his. To her surprise, Eidos just agrees, saying he is wretched and his presence here is probably justice. His hand opens as he admits that for a long time he has been thinking about something. A grim vision of a skeletal figure appears as he confesses he has wondered if the world would be better if he'd never been born. He clenches his fist, declaring that if he has to die, he will do it on his own terms, so be it. But if he could actually win this whole death game, he has a very specific wish in mind. His gaze falls on the glowing prize below as he says he'd use his wish to change his destiny. Tomo just scoffs, asking if his current fate is not good enough for him, a real tough love moment. And then she gets all flustered, pouting and reluctantly admitting she supposes that is a decent wish. For chimes in from behind, adding that he has fought beside idiots with way more pathetic ideals. This sudden moment of wisdom from the paper bag leaves both Eidos and Tomo completely speechless. Suddenly, a creepy new guy with a sinister smile appears, musing about a god holding such disdain. This dude is revealed to be a full-on winged being, casually perched on their chariot and talking about divine purpose. Eidos is absolutely livid, clearly not appreciating the surprise party crasher. Both Tomo and For are completely blindsided, wondering where this guy even came from. His expression hardens into a furious glare, ready to throw down with this winged intruder. This winged intruder wastes no time, grabbing Eidos right by the throat. With a smug God was right, he just chucks our boy off the side of the chariot. This guy continues his villain monologue, saying a divinity like Eidos has absolutely no place in his version of heaven, a new level of entitlement. Tomo's eyes narrow, and you can just feel the oh hell no energy radiating from her. Suddenly, other teams show up, including a skeleton in a green cloak, wondering if this is an ambush. Another chariot full of contestants is just as confused, asking why they are not all chasing Helios. Cutting back to the grab, Eidos' only thought is that this guy is a total weirdo. Belebog thinks he looks familiar, getting a flash of his brother Chernobog, the guy Eidos killed. Without a second thought, Tomo leaps off the chariot, kicking a massive red energy blast downward. This fiery attack homes in on Belebog, who is still busy trying to murder Eidos. He barely manages to block the blast with his bare hands, causing a huge explosion. In the chaos, Eidos and Eeyore knocked free, now just plummeting through the sky, but our boy just smirks, clearly not too worried about the whole gravity situation. Back on the chariot, a new woman in a striped suit comments on some augmentations, and it is For, now wrapped in Tomo's power, looking like he has finally gotten an upgrade.